Hi. So this is Group G's submission for the Sdp software design project for fundamentals of engineering. We coded the game Battleship, and we're just going to start off with running the code and showing what our game does. It starts off with bringing you to this title screen. It says the name of the game Battleship, and it gives you three options: classic, three-shot, and timed. So we're going to select, in the command window, it's going to say welcome to Battleship player down here. It's going to ask us to select the difficulty. So let's start with classic. We'll just go through all of them real quick. It's going to say you're about to place, it's going to say easy mode. And it's going to say you're about to place your carrier. After selecting the orientation of your ship, use the arrow keys to move your ship around. Press the space key to place your ship after you move it to the position you want it to be in. Excuse me. And then it tells us to choose our orientation. V for vertical, H for horizontal. Let's go with vertical. So I'm pressing the arrow keys right now, and as you can see, the code allows us to move this ship anywhere on the left side of the board. And then once I want to place it, I'll just hit space. Then it's going to repeat the same set of instructions, except this time it's going to tell me that we are about to place our battleship. So let's choose an orientation. Let's go with horizontal this time. And bam, it'll show us our battleship. And you have to place it somewhere on the board. If you try to place your battleship overlapping any ship, it's not going to like that. It's going to say cannot place ship here. And it won't let you place the ship until you go here to a new open spot. Once you're in an open spot, once you press space, it'll repeat the same thing. And it's going to repeat the set of instructions on how to place ships for every single one of your ships. So it's going to repeat it for your cruiser, your submarine, and your destroyer. Those are the three ships you have left. So we're just going to real quick run through this and place our ships wherever we like. And okay, so after this last ship is placed, the command window is going to display a bunch of text. It's going to say AI is placing battleship, cruiser, submarine, destroyer, and the rest of the ships. And it's going to say click on the board where you want to shoot. So right now, basically what happens is in the typical game of Battleship, you have your side of the board where your ships are, and then you have a place to guess. So here we're going to guess anywhere on the side of the board. If you click here, nothing happens. You have to click on the right side of the board where the AI is. As soon as you click right here, the AI is also going to make its own shot, and you're just going to go back and forth with the AI, trying to trade out shots. So we're just going to play a real quick game of Battleship here. And so after I sank this ship here, it'll tell me in this command window right here, I sank the cruiser. So now I know that this boat is sunk. And you can see on this side that the AI has missed most of their shots, but it has hit my ship twice. So I got to be a little careful of that. So here it says I sank the battleship, which is 4 units long. And then we're just going to keep playing and see if we can beat the AI. Right here, it says we sank the carrier. That's this ship right here. So there's actually two ships here. One is 3 units long. That's our cruiser. And the carrier is 5 units long. One advantage about using AI battleship versus player is that it's fast. You don't have to wait for the other person to make a guess. Me personally, when I'm playing Battleship, I do not enjoy waiting for someone else to think and make their guess. So now I'd say we sank the submarine. The battleship has, or the AI, sorry, has almost sunk our cruiser, almost sunk our battleship, and it's hit both of our submarines and our cruisers. And we've sunk 4 out of the 5 ships there. So we're just going to try to finish this guy off real quick. Bam. So it'll close out of the window. It'll say congrats player in the command window. Congrats player, you beat the computer. And then it'll loop. It'll just take you back to the title screen and it'll say select a difficulty. And then so this time we're going to select 3-shot. So it's going to say 3-shot mode right here. And it's going to say the same set of instructions for placing your ships: carrier, submarine, destroyer, cruiser, battleship. So we're just going to speed through this real quick. One thing to note, if you mess up and you misclick, like you're placing your ships fast, like let's say I accidentally hit G as the input instead of V or H, it'll just default it to vertical. So just a note of caution, if you misplace, just heads up, it's going to place vertically. So we're just going to speed through this real quick. Place a bunch of ships. Okay, so for 3-shot mode, the way it works is this instruction here is different. It says click on the board where you want to shoot, you get 3 shots in a row. And then it says after your 3 shots, the AI gets to shoot 3 times, and then the turn ends. So in this game mode, it is possible to tie the AI, and this does make you miss. So like, look, 1 shot, ooh, got lucky there, 2, 3. Then the AI is going to think, and then it's going to place its 3. And we're going to keep going like this. So the way to tie the AI here, I'm just going to talk as I play. is, let's say you make your last 3 shots and you sink all the ships, but then the AI makes its last 3 shots and it sinks all your ships. Then it's a tie. So the AI still gets to make a move after you make your move. Usually that won't happen because usually you are going to be leading or the AI is going to be leading. Like as you can see right here, the AI is doing really good. And I am using the AI term quite literally here, though I guess it's more of an algorithm that we've coded in. It still has intelligence. It's not just guessing randomly on the board. When it gets a hit, it is guessing immediately next to the hit in one of the 4 directions, and we'll talk about how that's coded in a sec. So as you can see, I'm playing the game. I'm just going through, making my 3 shots. Honestly, Battleship itself, I'm not very good at. I'm sure there's other people out there who could end this game and save you of your boredom a lot faster than I can, but here we are, so we're just going to play the game. So right now we have a 3-unit long ship somewhere hiding. Oh, found it. It's going to be right here, right here. So right here, I still have to make my last shot, and then the AI still gets a chance. But as you can see, the AI didn't have enough shots to kill all my ships, and it didn't know where they were. So it's going to say, congrats, player, you beat the computer. Select the difficulty. The last difficulty, or last difficulty we're going to go over is the timed version. So it'll say right here, after the countdown, race against the clock to beat the game in as fast of a time as possible. And then after a couple seconds, it's going to start. It'll say, get ready in 3, 2, 1, go. And then for this mode, it's a much bigger screen, easy for you to see. You're just going to go and you're going to try to hit as many AI ships as possible. Sorry, you're going to hit all of the AI ships. You're going to sink them and as fast of a time as possible. As you can see here, the AI clumped together a lot of the ships. On this mode especially, it does that a lot. The reason it'll clump those ships together is because it wants you to use your brain more, because in that mode, you don't actually get to see when you sink each type of ship, unlike the other game modes where it tells you as soon as you sink it, which ship you sank. So as a result, it's a little more mentally taxing. And then it says, congrats, player, your time is 19.571 seconds. And then it tells you to select the difficulty, and it'll keep looping this difficulty for indefinite amount of time, pretty much forever. So we're going to exit out of this, and then we're going to start looking at the actual code. So for this battleship select function, it's real simple. It pretty much takes the inputs R and C and outputs function. Function is going to equal 1, 2, or 3, or in some cases 0. But for the code's purpose, it'll never equal 0. The only reason it would go 0 is when we're actually clicking on the title screen there. The C corresponds to the column. So basically what it's saying is if you're not selecting one of these options, it will do something else. But for the sake of the code, we only care about the function output of 1, 2, and 3. So this is the start screen code. Basically what it's going to do is initialize the sprite sheet, just define the sprites as different variables. And then we're just going to create the array for the title screen, and then we're going to draw the start screen. Then here, we're just creating a loop to run the function code until it outputs one of these 3 options, 1, 2, or 3. If the else statement runs, it'll just keep looping the code. So let's move into the actual code. So here, as you can see, we have the same thing. We have the function running. So while it equals 0, that's how the loop works. It's going to function, then it's going to say inside the loop function equal to 1. It's going to say RC equals get mouse input. So it's going to know when we're clicking on the scene or where we're clicking on the scene. And then we're going to run that on the RC values from this get mouse input. And then if we're not clicking on one of those faces, function is going to equal 0. It's going to repeat the loop. If not, function is going to remain equal to 1 or some other variable. So now, the 3 things, function equals 1, 2, and 3, correspond directly to classic mode, to the 3-shot mode, and the timed mode. So for the sake of ease of reading, right now this has if function equals 1, and then has the entirety of the code for the easy mode. And then here, if we look up in the code, function equals 2. Here's the else if statement for function equals 2. And then it goes directly into 3-shot mode. You can see right here, it says fprintf 3-shot mode, and it goes through the entirety of the code for that. And then finally, if we say function equals 3, that's going to take us here. It's going to show us timed mode and the entirety of the timed mode. So just for ease of reading, I have the code copied on a separate file. We actually coded them separately and then compiled them all together. So let's just do a quick speed run of the classic mode. So first we create the board. We initialize the scene first off the sprite sheet, then we create the board. or we name the variables for the sprites. Then we create the board, sorry. Then we set up an info grid. So this is the grid that'll store the information of where the ships actually are. Then we're going to also set up the hit miss display, which is going to come in later. Right now, we're just making that a completely blank display. The one here is for the blank sprite right up here. And we're just going to make it the same size as our ship position array. Then we're going to have our game, we're going to initialize a bunch of variables. Game status is going to be equal to 0. That's how, once the game status is equal to 1, that's going to stop the whole game from running. That's how we know the game's won. We're going to set health bars for all the ships equal to how long they are. So the AI carrier's health and our carrier health is going to be 5. The battleships are going to have a health of 4, then 3 for the submarine and the cruiser, and then a health of 2 for the destroyer. So pretty much every time you hit a ship, its health is going to go down by 1 in the code. And once it hits 0, we're going to know that this ship is sank. Now, for the placement of everything, instead of using X and Y, because when testing it out, we were using X and Y for something else, we chose I and J as the X and Y correspondence. And then CA stands for carrier here. And so we set them both equal to 1. So that's why when you start trying to place your ships, they all start in the top left corner. Then we print out the instructions for how to place the ship. Then here's the code. So we say, excuse me, if the orientation for them, we define that as orient CA, is vertical, either capital or lowercase, then first we're going to display the board and just draw the ship in the top left. Then we're going to say, well, K does not equal 32. And then we're going to define K as K equals wait for button press, which is a function to find out which value we're using. And you can see here is the ASCII numbers, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32 for the arrow keys and the space bar. Then this here is to actually get the character. And then we're going to say if K is equivalent to 29, so the right arrow key, and its coordinate is less than 10, so that stops us from moving it too far off the right. Then the X coordinate, ICA, is equal to ICA plus 1. So that moves it 1 to the right. That same logic holds true for the left, ICA equals ICA minus 1. And then for the up and down movements, it's the same. The only thing is that it's going to be 6 here because the ship is 5 units long, so it cannot go into the 10th position. The furthest thing goes to the 6th position because the bottom of the ship will hit. Then all of these are going to keep going. And if we hit 32, then if we hit space, K is going to register 32, and it's going to exit this loop entirely. It won't even enter this if statement because K is not equal to any of these values, and it will just end the loop, which is fine by us. And then before doing anything, it's going to draw it again. So each time you hit it, it's going to repeat the loop, and it's going to just redraw this ship based on the coordinates. So JCA, ICA, JCA plus 1, ICA, and so forth. Then else if orient CA is equal to H, or equivalent to H, or lowercase h. Same thing, we're going to draw the ship in the top left corner. Same definition of K. And then here, we're just going to change them slightly. So now JCA has to be less than 10, and ICA can only go up to 6. But that's it. We're going to just draw this again at the end. And the other thing is the else. So if you don't put in G or, if you don't put in V or H and you put something else you mistype, it'll just say invalid input defaulting to vertical. And the exact same lines of code for the vertical one. Then what we do here is we say for I equals 1 to 2/10, we just run a for loop for the entirety of the board. And basically what we're doing here is we're overwriting our ship position display and our water display. Our water display is basically going to be an array that we use to draw everything, because we don't want to draw the ship positions for everything. We only want to draw the ship positions for your side, right? Because you shouldn't be able to see the AI side. So anyway, we do this again for the battleship. It's the exact same thing with just different variables. And then instead of only going up to 6, it goes up to 7. And then right here, we also have this else if statement. Basically, we say that if K is equal to 32, so if you hit space, but one of the ship's coordinates is not equal to 2, aka water, don't place it there. And that we do the same for that for all of them. So we go for the battleship cruiser. It's all the same idea with the code just slightly modified in order to accommodate for the shorter length of the ship. Then the AI places. So what we do for the AI is we basically we choose a random starting point for its X and Y coordinate. out of any of the valid starting points on the right side of the board. We print out that the AI is placing its stuff, in this case, the carrier. We choose the orientation for the carrier. So instead of using H and V, we're just going to use 1 and 2, 1 being vertical and 2 being horizontal. We run the exact same loop if it equals 1. In this case, that would be our vertical for our players. And then it'll randomly click on these buttons pretty much. It'll just say K is equal to a random number between 28 and 32. Because remember, the ASCII numbers are 28 through 32 for left, right, up, down, and space. And it'll continue to place it as so. And the AI is just going to do that for everything. So like right here for the battleship, it's going to choose some random starting coordinates. It's going to say print that it's placing a battleship. It's going to select a random orientation, and then it's just going to go. So that's going to repeat a bunch of times for the AI. Sorry about the coughing. Okay. Then here, after the AI shifts are placed, it's going to say click on the board where you want to shoot. We're going to set H equals to 0. And then we're going to say, well, the game status equals 0. Remember, we initialized that all the way at the beginning. It's going to say make your move. And we're going to set another loop. What this loop does is it basically stops you from shooting in a spot that you already shot from. So it'll keep looping the loop until you shoot somewhere that you haven't hit before. So we're going to, if the ship position of RC, so that's where we kept the ship's array data, is equal to 0, which is basically a blank spot, and you're within the bounds of the right side of the board, display a miss sprite. If it's not equal to 0 and you're within the bounds of the board, and it's not equal to 9, 9 is what we define as a miss sprite, we're going to call it a hit as well. And if we hit something, we're going to check what we hit. So it's either going to be an 11, a 22, a 33, a 44, or a 55, and that's going to correspond to each of the ships. So like if you go look at ship position here, if we real quick open up, well, here we have this version of ship position. As you can see, the ships there are going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's our carrier. 1, 2, 3, 4 is our battleship, and so on and so forth. So sorry about the coughing. I have a sore throat. And then so if it's equal to 11, the AI carrier health is going to be AI carrier health minus 1. And then we're going to keep going. And then right here we're going to run this. So if any of the health equals 0, so they keep on ticking down 1 by 1 as you hit them, it's going to print you sank the carrier, or you sank the battleship, depending on which variable reaches 0. And then we're also going to set that variable equal to -1, so just that when the loop runs again, it doesn't redisplay that message that you sank the carrier, you sank the battleship. So that's a player shot. And the AI, so first off, it just does randomly guessing. And if it says if H is equivalent to 1, then R equals R1, C equals C2, and H equals 0. If H equals 2, then R equals R2, C equals C1. I know it's a little complicated to understand. This part of the code is a little convoluted. But basically what it's doing is, first off, if this happens, it's just a miss. It's the same as before. Same line of code for the player, just with different variables. Now, here, let's say you hit something, right? What's going to do is it's first going to say H is a random between 1 and 2. And then we're going to display R2 as R and C2 as C. So we're going to override whatever heck random variable we did. So R2 and C2 and R1 and C1 are just temporary variables, basically. When we override them, now what we're going to say is if they're within the bounds of the board, we are going to pretty much make R1 equal R plus a random number and C1 equals C plus a random number. So we're redefining it. Or if R is not within these restricted bounds, we will just randomize the shot again because we have no choice. And what this does is this is basically guessing in a cardinal direction. So what this is coding for is it's saying you're going to guess either up 1, down 1, or plus 0, which is staying the same. Same with R1, C1. So it's just going to guess in a random cardinal direction, straight up, straight down, left or right, of the hit, which goes into like the intelligence of the AI. And then the code is the same. You check the player's battleship health, and you just set them equal to -1 so that the computer knows. So now here's the win condition code. If the AI carrier health, the battleship health, and all of them are equal to -1, because even when I want to hit 0, our code automatically sets it to -1. Then game status equals 1. After printing, congrats, player, you beat the computer. However, if the player carrier health and all the other players' ship's health equal -1, then it will print you lost. Practice the art of battleship for another 1,000 years before you challenge me again. Just to give the the AI some like personality. And then it says close and it ends all that. So that's Battleship Easy Classic. We're just gonna close out of that. Now 3-shot mode, all of it is the exact same up until here. When it says click on the board where you want to shoot, you get 3 shots in a row. We change this instruction script. And then basically this while loop that lets you shoot is just going to run 3 times in a row. So here you see the exact same while loop is just copy pasted, and you're just going to run it 3 times in a row, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're just running 3 times in a row. And then here with the AI's turn to play, the AI loop, so right here, while z equals 0 or equivalent to 0, you'll see it go, and then it'll start again, while z is equivalent to 0. And right here, while z is equivalent to 0. And we also add in some pauses, like right here, just to make it like a little more easy to see where the AI is shooting, and it doesn't get so like overwhelming. And the win condition is the exact same. Really, the only thing from classic to 3-shot is just everything is ×3. And that's where the tie aspect comes in, is because the win condition checks after you and the AI both made your move. Iterating the win condition code in between each of the while loop statements becomes a problem, because it'll close the figure window, but then immediately the next step in the while loop will reopen the figure window. Hence why we made it so that you could tie. And last but not least, we have the timed version of Battleship. So first off, there is no player. Excuse me. So here are the instructions for description of time mode. Here's a pause so people can actually read the instructions. And then we have the same initializing the variables. This time our info grids are all going to be 10 by 10 instead of 10 by 21 because we only have one board, which is the AI board. And we go straight into AI placement. We don't have any player placement because there is no placement. The AI placement is pretty much the same as all the other AI placements, which is just random, of course. So then you scroll down, we have our loops, and then here's the clicking. So it goes get ready, and then it goes 3, 2, 1, go with little pauses. And then we have tick to start the time collection. Once you beat the game, we'll have talk, collect the data, and then we'll output to that. So that's why tick is there. H equals 0, and we just go. In fact, this H equals 0 is actually not necessarily, since we don't have an AI guessing, but it is what it is. So you get your mouse input, and pretty much this loop right here, before we said while z equals 0 or equivalent to 0, we keep going, and then we had a turn, and then we ran the whole loop for game status. Now the only thing in this loop is the win condition and the health. So based on that, that's why this code is so much shorter, only 732 lines versus some like 1,500 lines of code for the other one. And then basically what we have here is, here's a win condition if the AI carrier's health and all the other ships' health is -1. We define W as talk. Then we say, congrats player, your time was .3f for 3 decimal point seconds, and we use W as our variable. Game status equals 1 to close out the clicking loop, and we close the figure. The only thing to note is that in the actual code, to make it loop forever, so keep bringing it back to the title screen, what we do is we say loop equals 0, and while loop is equivalent to 0, we run the entirety of the code. So the very last end statement in the entirety of the code right here is equal to that. And if you notice at the end of the entirety of the code, we say loop is equal to 0. So it will infinitely repeat because nothing changes the value of loop, and we constantly refine it as 0. So that was the game of Battleship. We hope you enjoyed it, and we're looking very forward to seeing how you guys grade it and how you guys view the game. And I believe our group said that we would be interested in participating in the showcase if we were to get selected. Once again, thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.